check me, boo.
Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So before we get started, remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you see that every time I post. If you like the content, give this video a thumbs up, and anything you would like to add, feel free to do so down below in the comment section. I almost messed that up. Anyways, okay, so Curon came out on Wednesday. It's only 7 episodes, so we gonna discuss it. Let's discuss it. So, to set the mood, we start off with a girl. No. To set the mood, we start off with there are bell chiming. Like a tower. There's a tower. It's covered by water, and we hear it boom, boom. You know, like a bell tower. We hear that going off, right? And we see this car driving in the middle of the dark down a lonely highway. They get to the house. There's this girl, Anna, right? She runs in the house, and her mom's like, oh, the same thing will happen to you, right? And, yeah, the same thing will become of you. And Anna's looking all shook and whatnot, right? And so her dad comes with a rifle in hand and snatches Anna up, and he's like, I'm gonna take her upstairs. I was like, what is going on? Like, is they finna kill her? Like, is she... Like, what is going on? So he puts her in a room. He tells her, don't come out. Like, I'll come back for you. Did he even tell her that? But he really just told her, don't come out. So she's laying on her bed, shook up, right? And you hear a lot of, like, arguing and tussling. You hear some things breaking. And so I guess after a while, she's had enough. So she runs downstairs, right? And she sees her mother get shot by some girl with the same rifle that her dad had. So she's looking shook, and then the girl turns around, and the girl looks exactly like Anna. And I was like, what is going on? Like, who is this person that looks exactly like her? So she click clack, because she was ready to shoot her too. Now, she shot her. She fell to the ground, and then her eyes closed. I was like, oh, okay. Now, when her eyes open, or if they do open, right? So her eyes closed, and so the next thing we know, we jump, and here we are again. We've got this woman driving in the dark with her two kids. So they're in the car, and the daughter in the back, Daria, she's like, what is this impromptu move that we're doing? Why are we moving? Why are we going back to Curon? You said you didn't want to go back there. And she called her by her first name. I was like, Lord, I wish I would call my mom by her first name. Like, I'd be snatched up so quick. But she called her Anna. I was like, oh, so this is Anna, and she's had 2 kids. I was like, okay. So she didn't die. She's like, I haven't been there in 17 years. Basically, like, that's her excuse. Like, it's been 17 years, right? And, we found out that the 2 kids are twins. You've got Daria, and then you've got the twin boy, who is Mauro. And I was like, okay. So Mauro is, when they're heading to the town, they see that same tower, where we heard the bells coming from, right? And so he was like, isn't that where the old village was? And Anna's like, yeah. He's like, well, why is that village, like, it's been submerged. Like, it's, like, covered in water. Only thing left, I'm assuming that tower was probably, like, the highest point in the city. So that's why you can still see some of it. And, he's into technology. So he has a drone. He's like, oh, well, I'm about to find out, like, what's going on out there. So he sends out his drone, right? And I can't remember what happened, but he lost the drone. I was like, oh, so that was a failure, right? They make it into the town. It's really dark, really ominous, right? So they go down this long driveway, and I'm like, where are y'all going? So they come up to what looks like this huge, huge, huge house. And I was like, okay, what's going on? So all the lights looked like they were off, right? So they went inside, and I was like, this already don't feel right, right? So when they got in the house, they go to the desk, and so she's telling the kids, like, oh, you know, people used to live here, like, somebody of royalty lived here as well. And she tells Daria, like, Daria asks her, she's like, has it always been ours? I guess, like, the family. And she's like, yeah, it's always been ours. And so I'm like, okay, it's not a house, it's a hotel. Okay. And so we had a little flash of Anna's dad, like, basically putting her out and telling her not to come back to Curon. I was like, we just put our teenage daughters out, sir? Like, okay, CPS, okay. But she's probably of age, though. But, she tells Daria and Myra, she's like, I'll be right back. So she goes, and I don't know what she's doing, but, of course, as people do when they're left alone, they start to wander. So they're wandering through the house, Myra and Daria are, and they come across this room with, like, these weird little, masks. One of them was of the devil. I was like, oh, no. This is the place of Satan. Get out. So all of a sudden this man comes up talking about what are you doing here? And so they were scared. I was scared. I was like, who is this man? Come to find out, this is Anna's dad. I was like, oh, so he's still living. Okay, that's cool. So he's telling Anna, he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, it's been 17 years. And he's like, first of all, the only reason that you're here is because you're running away from some man, and I guess it's the kid's dad. He's like, you're only here because you're running away from him. I was like, ooh, okay. But my thing is, how would you know that if you haven't seen your daughter in 17 years? Anyways, so she's like, you don't even want us here. He's like, no, I don't want you here. He's like, you can't stay here. You shouldn't be in Curon. I was like, what is going on with all of this energy, sir? Like, you are putting out some energy and it is not good. So they go to a diner to eat, right? And when they're in the diner, Anna sees some guy and he's looking all weird and flustered and stuff. So Daria's like, who is that? And her mom's like, oh, don't worry about him. All of a sudden the lights in there go out. I was like, run. So they're like, oh, it's the blackouts. It always happens. I was like, I don't give a if it always happens. Leave. So they're getting ready to leave in the dark. And guess who shows up? Grandpa. Grandpa shows up looking crazy. You can stay for the night with me, but tomorrow you're leaving Curon. I was like, what is going on? And why he show up in the dark like that? This not sitting right in my spirit. I don't know about y'all, but in my spirit is saying this is not right, right? So they go back to the house. They get settled in, and they go to sleep. Now, in this, while they're sleeping, Anna is having a nightmare, and she's having a nightmare of the night that happened in the beginning, when she saw her mom get shot. So while she's having this nightmare over in her kid's room, Mauro hears a thud above him, right, in the ceiling, and he wakes up Daria, and he's like, oh, did you hear that? Now, Daria is... we're gonna get on her in a minute, but Daria's like, oh, you woke me up out my sleep. I guess I'm gonna go take a hot bath, right? So he's like, oh, I'm gonna go investigate. So he's walking, and he goes upstairs. There's another floor, right? He goes up to the next floor, and on this hallway, it's dark and creepy. The lights are flickering on and off. I was like, get off and up there. You about to get snatched up in like 5 seconds. I know it. So he's walking, and he comes to this door, and this door, there's water leaking from it, right? And he thinks he hears a noise from it. Now, mind you, I said he was, tech savvy. This boy got the gadgets. Like, he pulled out like some type of gadget to pick the lock. I was like, oh, okay. So he's trying to pick the lock, right? And as he's picking the lock, like, he's having a hard time kind of. And then here come Grandpa. He was like, what are you doing? And so Mauro is like, well, I heard a noise, like there's something behind this door. And then all of a sudden his grandpa's like, oh, he pulls his head to his chest because Mauro is deaf, by the way. He has a hearing aid. He's like, oh, this is what you're hearing. I have a pacemaker. And I'm like, what? Like, sir, you were nowhere to be found a minute ago when he heard this thud, but you're saying he hears your pacemaker? That makes no sense. Like, we don't even know where you were in the house, but he heard your pacemaker. Because he's got supersonic hearing all of a sudden. What? Okay. So, Anna wakes up out of her sleep, out of her nightmare. She goes and she finds Daria doing Daria things in the bathtub, honey. And she's just like, oh, I had a nightmare. basically, she ends up sleeping in the room with them. So she's like really spooked, right? And so the next day, Anna's telling them like, oh, I'll show you the city and stuff this weekend. And I was like, I thought y'all was leaving. How you gonna show them the city? So they, right before they go outside, Myra's like, did you know that Grandpa had a pacemaker? And it's like, did he tell you that? And he was like, yeah. Y'all, they go outside. This woman's father is crazy. This man has a wolf caged up. And all three of them are like, this is dangerous. He's like, oh, well, it ate my dog. Look, he said it got my dog, so I got it. I was like, what? So he's like, I'm trying to domesticate it. And he's like, anything can be domesticated. And he like hint at Anna. And I was like, oh, what was that hint about? What was it about? So I was like, okay. So, they leave him be with his crazy self, honey. I was like, this man needs some help. But she takes them, and so she drops them off for their first day of school. And I was like, oh, so they are staying. I was like, okay. She drops them off for their first day of school, right? And so, Daria and Mauro, you know, have a little, you know, quick conversation like, you know, we're gonna be okay, yada, yada, whatever. Daria's like, let's just, you know, hop into things, right? So she goes up to this group, and this guy's passing out flyers for a party. She's like, oh, hey, what are you guys up to, right? So he ignores her. So then she asks again. She's like, I said, what are you guys up to, right? So he's still trying to ignore her, and he sees some other people, and so as he goes to walk, she trips him. So he gets up or whatever, and he's all upset or whatever, and everybody is, you know, just looking at them like, okay, you know, you've made your statement. They get in class, and of course, you know, let us know where you're from, what's your name, yada yada. I hate that. But so, Mauro stands up, he's really uncomfortable, and he just says, you know, his name, where he's from, and all of that. And so the kids start laughing at him, which was so weird. And I was like, y'all are immature, but y'all swear y'all like adults, but y'all not. I was like, what is going on? So Daria stands up, and she basically telling them, she was like, y'all gonna be in this city. No, that's not what she said. This is what she said without saying it. She said, y'all gonna be in this city forever. Y'all ain't gonna never amount to nothing. You ain't gonna never be nothing. Y'all gonna be doing the same jobs y'all mommy and daddy is doing. Y'all, some of y'all gonna get pregnant right up out of high school. Some of y'all on prom night. And you're gonna stay here with your little miserable lives, and y'all gonna be miserable. That's just gonna be that. That's not what she said. No, she said that she noticed the crucifixes, and speaking of those crucifixes, the night before when they were leaving the diner, they asked about why there were candles and crucifixes everywhere, and Grandpa, his name is Thomas, but I'm just gonna call him Grandpa. He said that it's to ward off the dark shadows. But anyway, she was like, I see your little ugly ass. This is what she said. She said, I see your little crucifix on the wall. What are you afraid of? What are you scared of? Yeah. So after she said all that and sat down, everybody was like, oh, okay, she's the cool one. So, at the end of the school day, they're getting to leave, and here come these boys again. And so they take Mauro's hearing aid. They were like, oh, you didn't say anything about you being deaf. I was like, what? And so they take it, and Daria gets it back, beats up both of them. Well, she kneed one in his nuts, and then the other one she, like, smacked in the face. And I was like, that's what y'all get, because y'all are doing the most for no reason. So, Mauro had asked Daria, he said he wanted to go and get his drone. So, Daria had promised him that night they would go and they would go get his drone. Keep that in mind, okay? They go, when they left from school, they go to the boating dock, right? So when they get out there, they go to see the guy, you know, who's in charge of the boats or whatever. And they were like, oh, can we get a boat? Y'all, this man was tying up a boat. He immediately turned around and said, basically, he didn't like their family and they couldn't get nothing from him. I was like, sir, like, you didn't even know who they were looking the other direction. Like, how you just knew exactly who they were when you turned around? That don't make no sense. I was like, okay. So they leave, and Mara's like, how does he even know who we are, right? And I was like, yeah, let me know, because that didn't make no sense, right? So Daria's like, that's cool. We're going to come back after dark anyway and just steal a boat. I was like, girl. Now, like I said, Daria and Mauro are twins, but I noticed that Anna is more attentive to Mauro, and I wonder if that's because, because he's deaf, maybe? I don't know. Because he's technically the youngest. He came out last. So I don't know if that's it. They just seem to have a stronger bond than Anna and Daria. Daria seems really like just headstrong. Like she's just going to do whatever she want to do. Anyways, they go home. Oh, the first day of school was crappy, basically. And they're like, oh, we're going to go out, right? So they're walking, and I think they're in the midst of trying to like make their way back to the boathouse, like while the sun goes down. And here come pulling up the crew from the school, right? This girl hops out the car and she's like, oh, we're going to this party. Don't worry about them. Like, I'll make sure they behave. Do you want to go? Now, Mara's looking at Daria. He's like, you promised me that we were going to go get my drone. She's like, oh, we'll go after the party. Won't be there long. So they go, right? They get to the party. It's a rave. The same girl comes over. She invites Daria to dance. They're having a good time. Daria's getting drunk, right? She's having a good old time. Now, the two buttholes come over tomorrow, and they're like, they say the dumbest thing. You don't look alike to be twins. I was like, what? He was like, and he basically told them like, yeah, we're fraternal. And he one of the guys asked him, he was like, well, who came out first? He's like, oh, well, Daria came out first. I was closer to my mom's heart. And I was like, okay, that was a little Norman Bates of you to say, but I'm gonna leave that where it's at. I'm gonna just leave that where it's at. So he's being a wallflower. He's getting drunk. Daria's out on the floor. Excuse me, because it's not. She's out having a good time dancing with this girl, right? Now, back at home, Anna and her dad are still fussing about them staying. She basically tells him all in all that she came back because she's trying to understand what happened that night when her mom died. And he's saying that her mom killed herself. We obviously did not see that, honey. I was like, what'd she kill herself at? Because I could have swore that somebody that looked like Anna shot her. He was like, and if you stay here in Curon, your kids are gonna have the same nightmares as you. I was like, what? I was like, so she they gonna kill her? And I was like, make it make sense. Like, I don't understand, like, what is going on. Back at the party, the two guys are like, oh, I want to see how much Daria can drink. So they're like, oh, hey, we're gonna go out to the lake. You want to come? So Daria's telling Mara, she's like, oh, we're gonna go out to the lake. He's like, I thought we were gonna get my drone. She's like, oh, it's not gonna be long. We're not. He was like, so he didn't say that to her. That's his sister. But basically, he was like, I'm just going off by myself, right? And he takes off into the woods, and the girl's like, oh, don't worry about him. He's okay. I'm like, he's in a whole new town by himself. What do you mean that he's gonna be okay? He doesn't know his way around. So, Daria goes off with her newfound friends, honey, and Mauro goes off by himself. Like I said, Mauro is walking through the woods, and I was like, this is a lot, right? But he made it to the boathouse. I was like, okay, well, he navigated some type of way. He made it to the boathouse, and on the other side, Daria and her friends or whatever, they made it to like this pier. And so this drinking game is you stand up on the ledge of the pier. Mind you, they're out there with that freaking tower, but you stand up here on the pier, you get your alcohol, you stand here and you drink, until you get so wasted that you can't stand up anymore, and the last person standing wins. Now, Mauro is on the other side still in a boat. Mauro gets his boat and he starts to paddle out, right? What was that? But he's paddling out, and he gets out there, and he's got a GPS thing on his drone. So he's paddling, paddling, paddling. Oh, my drone is here. And this whole time, I'm just like, he's gonna die. You know, y'all know I'd be ready to kill somebody in a minute. But I was like, he's gonna die out here in this water. Like, he's gonna drown. Like, something gonna snatch him up. Like the Loch Ness Monster or something. Like, some type of sea creature, sea urchin is gonna come get him, swallow him up, and the boat up. He gonna be missing. It's gonna be a murder mystery. They're gonna be trying to see how my mind wanders. I was like, but all this is about to happen, right? He gets out there. He finds his drone. Now, somebody explain to me why he didn't paddle closer to the drone. He stayed within the feet that he was. It's out of reach, but he's reaching out the side of the boat for the drone. Move your boat closer. He falls in the water. Now, on the opposite side, Daria is determined to win this game, so she's still drinking. And I'm like, oh my God, you can hold your liquor. And then all of a sudden, one of the guys fell, and then next, she falls because she's drunk, right? So her and Mauro actually fell in the water in the exact same time. Now, Mauro comes up, he gets his drone, he swims back to the boat, and then he just lays on the boat. I'm like, you need to be getting up out of there, right? Now, side note, right before Daria fell, they were talking about the tower, and they were telling her that there's this legend that if you hear, they're like, oh, there are no bells up there. They was like, but if you hear the bells, then that means that basically you're about to die. So when she fell in the water and she's like, hasn't come to yet, she is out in the woods. I was like, what is going on? How's she in the woods? She's out in the woods and she's like hearing these noises from all different directions, and she turns around and we can hear like the noise, like the snarl of a wolf, right? And then she comes to and she's out there with the girl. I guess he was waiting for her to come to so she could make sure she was okay. Now, they do that whole stare into each other's eyes for a really long time, and then they kissed. I was like, okay, so they're about to start dating. Great. Mauro has made it back to the house, and he's trying to fix his drone, and he hears the thud again above him in the ceiling. So Mauro goes back upstairs, and I'm like, your granddaddy gonna get you. He goes back upstairs. He goes to this exact same door, and he starts picking the lock, right? So this time he actually makes it inside, and I was like, oh shoot. So he made it inside, and you know, he's looking around with a flashlight, and everything seems normal. It's just, you know, an old abandoned room. You know, theirs was a bookshelf and stuff like that. And so we see the flashlight flash to a bed, right? And I was like, okay, whatever. But then we see some legs, and I was like, who up there? Now, look, before I tell y'all who was up there, this is who I thought was up there. I was like, what if Anna's mom didn't really die, and he been holding her captive up there the whole time? You know, because people be doing some weird things. I was like, what if she didn't die? She's been being held captive up there that whole time, right? Okay. He goes over there, and it's Anna, right? He's like, Mom. And so she's all chained up. Her mouth is covered and everything. So he goes over there, and he starts to unchain her. And as he's doing that, I'm like, that's not your mom. That is not your mother, right? And so when he unchained her, he asked her, he was like, who are you? So, okay, so he felt it too, that wasn't his mom, right? So whoever this person thing is, it knocked him out and took off, right? So he's laying there in the floor, right? So Grandpa comes running in up the stairs, right? And he finds Mauro in there laying in the floor, but he is looking shook because this thing or whatever that he had chained up there is gone. So he puts Mauro in the bed. Now, Mauro is having cold sweats and stuff. I was like, now at first, you know, because my mind does the things that it does, I was like, oh, like, was it like this like, can it jump bodies? Like, is it a parasite? Like, is it inside him? But that wasn't it. But Grandpa told her, he was like, oh, it was just a bad dream. So I bet you guys that when Anna saw her mom get shot by something that looked like her, he snatched her up, told her it was just a bad dream, that her mom killed herself, and really and truly that thing killed her mom. So, like I said, he came out running, he puts Myra in the bed, it's just a bad dream, and he leaves, right? Now, at the same time, I guess like the next day, remember the guy from the pier, the boat guy, the rude guy? He turns around, like he's looking at the tower, but he turns around like there's something there. So it's like, I felt like he knew that the thing had been unleashed. So I'm just like, what is going on in this city? This is the end of the episode. I need to know why Grandpa is lying to Anna about this thing. Why this thing looks like Anna. And what is the deal with the tower if there are no bells up there? But they're talking about if you hear the bells, then you're gonna die. The night when Anna's mom got shot, that thing, it was wet. Did it come out the water? Okay. Well, you guys, let me know your opinions, how you feel about it. It's only 7 episodes. Go watch it so we can talk about it. It is dubbed, by the way. Or, no. Yeah, it's dubbed. So it's in another language, but you know, there's English. So just in case you want to know. But anyways, let me know how you felt about this one, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.